So I thought about it for a while, a couple days, came up with some tips. Top 5 tips to help you out with operations and hopefully get you to start making more money and have a much better time, because I know this game is tough. This game is not easy and it's pretty merciless. One mistake can cost you a lot of money. One bad decision can cost your whole team a lot of money. If you're playing with randoms, it's even harder to succeed in any capacity at all. And I know from first-hand experience and from watching all the people I play with play the game and the randoms that I play with, I know this game is frustrating sometimes. So I wrote down 5 tips. Number 1 is understanding the balance between patience and aggression. Now, this is something that if you're playing with randoms, this concept is going to apply slightly differently, and I'll explain the difference. But in general, this is something that everybody should be learning, because it is by far the biggest mistake I see people make, and it is the number 1 reason that I lose fights, my team loses fights, my randoms lose fights. It's literally the biggest problem that I see, and I think it's really important that I share this. So hear me out for a second. So while you're playing the game, you're going to spawn in, you're going to go to whatever POI you're probably closest to, look for enemies and loot and whatever, right? The entire time that you're in a lobby, you need to have in your head a switch that you're going to flip between being patient and stealthy, or aggressive and loud, okay? The most important factor here is that everybody on your team flips that switch at the same time, because if you don't, somebody's gonna die because they're going to overextend themselves and get killed. I'm guilty of doing this myself, and I know teammates that I have that are guilty of doing this as well. Everybody does it. And on the flip side of that, if you choose to be patient when your team is fighting, then you're going to essentially throw the fight and cost your team all of their money and everything they brought in, because you're not there to help. This isn't something that is a one-size-fits-all solution. It's something that is going to take a lot of repetition and a lot of careful afterthought with every fight. But once you can learn to flip this switch properly, it's going to change the way the game works. And this is why I said when you're playing with randoms, it's a very different situation. So if you have friends, you can talk to all of your friends and explain to them this concept and hopefully get them to, at least in their head, consider the idea that everybody needs to be on the same page with whatever you're doing. A bad plan executed well will always be better than a good plan executed poorly. If you have this wonderful idea, right, and you were thinking, I'm going to be stealthy and I'm going to try to flank these guys and I'm going to do all this, or I'm just going to wait for them to walk into me, or whatever it is, right? But your team has a different concept or a different idea that they're going to execute on, and you don't help them, then your wonderful magical plan that you had in your head that was going to work really well is probably not going to work anymore, because your team just ran off to start the fight, they didn't listen to you, and they're doing whatever they want, and now you're not there to help them. Unfortunately, it's your fault that everybody lost. You can't blame them. Keep that in your head. And on the flip side of that, if your team is being patient and they're being stealthy or quiet, or they're waiting, or they're holding angles, or whatever they're doing, if you decide that you don't want to do that and you just start running off towards the team, some gunshots that you hear in the distance or whatever you decide to do, it's your fault if you die. It is. You shouldn't be doing that. And if you get killed because you're not sticking with your team and you flip that switch to aggression and they're all in the passive side of the switch and you go get murdered, that's your fault. You deserve to die. The way I play with my team is that all of us try our best to stay on the same page, and none of us are perfect at it. But because I know that my team is, if I start a fight, my team's probably going to flip the switch and come help me. Or, if my teammate starts a fight, we're going to flip the switch and go help him. It gives me a little bit more confidence, and I can play a little bit more aggressively naturally, because I know that I have backup. If I'm playing with randoms, I simply cannot trust them. I pretty much assume that they have no idea what they're doing. And if I'm proven wrong, then fantastic. That's really good news, right? My thought process is the switch that I have is going to be flipped into passive mode until they decide to flip it. Because if I flip into aggression and they don't flip the switch, that's when I get killed and they're sitting back looting or doing something else behind me. And now I'm relying on them to play hero and save me. And I costed myself all that money, and I know from first-hand experience that a lot of times your randoms will just leave you to die, loot your corpse, and walk away like nothing happened. But what I will do is, once they make contact, I'm going to immediately figure out how can I support him in what he's doing, and either assist him in getting the kill, or look out behind us for other teams that might be coming up, or focus on finding the other enemies of that team that he's fighting and preventing them from clutching up or doing something crazy. In my head, that's what's going on as soon as they start a fight. So the concept of flipping the switch, keep that in your head. Patience versus aggression. Tip number 2, honestly invaluable for every player that plays this game. Learn the spawns. The first 10 minutes of a match, especially the first 5 minutes, are the most dangerous moments of the game. This is when everybody has full armor, they have their best ammo, they have all their heals, they have full confidence, and they have no loot. Learning the spawns helps you to predict where a team can be rotating in from and about how long it could take them to get there. If I spawn at barracks and I know immediately a team could be coming from tunnels, there's probably a team or 2, maybe even 3 teams at cement, and there's a team or 2 that spawned over on the bridge on the backside near the tunnel. So in my head, I know that these are all possibilities. So for the first 5 minutes of the match, I'm looking to use deductive reasoning to knock out different pathing that enemies are taking. And this helps me make decisions. And every spawn in the game has counter spawns that you should know about. If I'm spawning at Visitor, I know there's 2 different spawns at Visitor that could potentially push me. And so if I spawn on the backside and I go to that kick door, I know that that kick door, if I kick it, it is totally possible that there's an enemy holding that door waiting for me to kick it down, especially if I take time to loot. I know that it is extremely important that if you want to get into the admin building and you have an admin spawn, that you need to get there as fast as possible. And this is the one time that I would recommend not looting, because you want to beat the other team there, and if they decide to loot anything, you're going to have an advantage in that fight. On the official website for the game, there is an interactive map, and on that map, you can look at the spawns on every map in Operations. If you don't want to nerd out that much and you don't want to go look into that, just pay attention when you spawn in, and if you are paying attention, you'll figure it out eventually. I learned most of them by just literally playing the game enough to where I start realizing where the spawns are. Now, I don't know if they're completely random. I don't know if it's a set group of spawns that rotates in and out. Not too sure, and it's kind of impossible to tell without being able to see where every team spawns in every round. In my head, I just assume that every spawn is viable until I knock them off the list. So, with tip number 2 out of the way, let's get into tip number 3. Tip number 3 is ammo is by far the most important thing in this game. Cheap guns. Barely kit them out or put nothing on them even. I can tell you right now that I would much rather walk into a match with an M16 with purple ammo than walk into a match with, let's say, an AUG fully kitted out with 250k worth of attachments on it, but green ammo. Any day of the week. Even arguably blue ammo. I would rather have the M16 with purple or gold. Ammo is the number 1 factor in winning a fight. Your armor, I would argue that your armor isn't even as important, because yes, you can take a few extra shots, but if I have to choose between gold armor or gold ammo, I'd much rather the gold ammo. The gold armor is only going to make it to where it takes them longer to kill me, but my terrible bullets are going to make it to where they learn pretty quickly that I'm not hurting very much, and then they're not afraid of me. If I hit somebody with gold ammo, I promise you, unless you're wearing red armor, you're probably going to reconsider fighting me. Or at least at the bare minimum, you're going to reconsider pushing me. And this opens up the opportunity for me to take advantage of your lack of confidence now, because I just beamed you and hurt you a whole lot. This also leads to another point. Ammo is expensive. There are so many times where I'll run green armor into a normal match and just bring purple and gold ammo, and then I kill one person, absolutely shred him, he doesn't even get a shot off on me, and then I can take his purple or gold or whatever he had on him, save myself a bunch of money, and now I get a full kit with the good ammo, and I'm a much bigger threat than I was previously. With that, you also should not keep all the ammo in your pockets. Stuff it in your safe box, especially gold ammo, but even purple ammo. I carry a mag worth, maybe 2 mags if I'm really feeling kind of crazy. This is because if I get killed by a sniper or by something crazy happens, whatever, and I die, I don't lose all the ammo that I bought, and then I have good ammo for the next raid. Saves me money. You can't do that with armor. You can't do that with gun attachments. If I get killed with a gun with 300k on it, that gun's gone. There's nothing I can do about it, unless my teammate picks it up and makes it out with it. There are a few small things to consider here. Number 1 is the fire rate of the gun is going to mean that you burn through ammo quicker. So something like a Vector is really bad about eating up 45 ammo, and it's expensive to run. Whereas you can do an SMG 45 with a much slower fire rate, but the damage is still pretty good, and you can run that same ammo and make it last a lot longer. I like marksman rifles in this game. The SVD, the SR25, even the PSG, even they raised the price recently, so that gun's kind of off the table for me. But marksman rifles, you can buy 20 gold ammo and go into a match. The rest can be 60 purple. That's more than enough that you'll need for the whole raid. You don't even really have to have a pistol, because these things are viable at close range if you know how to use them. And that gold ammo is going to hurt people. Marksman rifles are a very cheap way to get full use of good ammo, while also not having to spend a lot on attachments, because all you need is really a scope. I like to put a suppressor on it, just for the fact that it makes it a little bit harder for them to tell where I'm shooting from. You can bring bare minimum amount of ammo, and you can do crazy damage to people. Ammo is number one at all times. Just focus on good ammo. Everything else is secondary. You can go in with no armor and gold bullets, and you'd have a better chance of killing somebody than if you came in with, I don't know, white bullets and the best armor in the game, I promise you. Tip number 4 is going to be loot everything. Everything. I can't stress this enough. I have seen reds in some of the craziest places. I have found golds on regular bots. Loot everything. Especially if you want to make money. I understand if you're PvPing, sometimes you're going to skip out on looting, but understand that you're missing out. And this also extends to the fact that Easy can still give you some really good loot. Don't sleep on it. Keycard rooms are extremely valuable. They can give you some really good loot, and even if the enemy has already hit the keycard room, you should consider going in there and looking after them. If the enemy has done a mission, and especially safe missions, you'd be surprised the type of stuff that people leave in the safe missions because they can't fit it in their backpack. Old stale bodies that have been dead for a while and already looted, and you know the team's gone, and you go in there to kind of scavenge around. Loot those bodies, dude. You'd be surprised. People will leave $300,000 guns on a body because they just couldn't fit it. Same thing with if you can't fit one of their guns in your backpack, but you have some space, consider stripping the most expensive attachments off the gun. Take that off, put it in your backpack. You could fit that, and that's still 50, 60K, 70K for an attachment. Take the extra second, loot everything, look everywhere. I promise you, you can find really good items in some of the weirdest places. And for the final tip, I would argue that this one is by far the most important. You can ignore every tip before this and still come out net positive if you just follow this tip right here. Be the teammate that you want. This means don't steal people's loot. I know it's tempting. You'll see a really good gun on a body or something that somebody killed, and you'll be like, dude, I could just totally steal this and run to exfil or whatever. Or you'll see a good set of armor on the body, and you'll be like, man, I really could use that purple armor or that gold armor or whatever. Understand, your teammate's space is limited. They're not going to be able to fit everything, so just let them grab what they want and then take whatever's left. And honestly, it's a good idea while they're looting their kills that you take a minute and look around and make sure you're not about to get beamed by a third party because you're not paying attention and you're busy trying to snoop through their boxes. Doesn't make any sense to do that. Stay with your team, stick with them, pay attention to what they're doing, follow them where they're going. If you run off on your own and do whatever you want and you get killed, that's 100% your fault, and you're also ruining their experience. And this is something that I see so many times with randoms that it drives me insane. Other things you can do is like share your heals. If your teammate's low, his vest is broken, or his health is all messed up, or he needs a surgery kit or whatever, and you have more than enough to share with him, don't be stingy. Yeah, sometimes some of that stuff's expensive. You know, vest kits can be kind of expensive, but if you have the extra one, especially if you've been looting bodies and you didn't even pay for it, just let them use it. Don't hold on to everything. Don't, if your teammate's limping and his leg's broken and you have a surgery kit, but you just refuse to give it to him, then you're a part of the problem. And when you guys die, it's really your fault. And most importantly, stay positive. It can be tilting. There's cheaters in this game that ruin the experience. I dealt with some tonight. It's really frustrating. There's ratty players that hide in corners, hide in little rooms, that sit in a bush, that sit in a window, whatever. There's moments where your teammates make a bad decision and it ends up getting you killed. There's moments where you miss all your shots and die. Whatever happens, just understand staying positive is what's going to lead to your best matches. My favorite matches that I've played are the matches where me and my teammates are laughing and having a good time in the process. And almost always when we're having a good time, we perform better. Because we're not angry, we're not tilted, we're not overextending because we want the kill so bad because we're mad. We're not going and being too scared because we don't want to flip the switch to aggression because, we got killed by a cheater last round or something and we're scared, or we lost our confidence. So keep a good attitude, stay positive. Therefore, you're not bringing the vibes down for everybody. You're not angry. You're not yelling at people. And therefore, your teammates can focus, you can focus, and you can try to succeed at what it is you're trying to do. And with all of that out of the way, I hope you guys did learn something. These are all things that I really did take the time to think about so that hopefully can actually help you guys. Thank you so much for watching this video. I am blown away by the views that I've been getting lately. It's kind of crazy. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.